What's going on, everyone? I am extremely excited. I had a little bit of a video planned with a collaboration with another YouTuber. Won't name names yet, but stay tuned for that one. I was going to go ahead and release that video today after I edit it, but I logged on and I saw perhaps the most powerful leader from set 3, and the leader I am potentially the most excited about. I don't know yet, of course, because all leaders haven't been released, but as of so far, this is the leader I am most excited about, even more so than some of the sweet other ones like Count Dooku or Newt Gunray or whatever. I am extremely excited, so I figured let's just do a video on it. And before we dive in, just a quick thing, my patrons, thanks for supporting the channel. Really do appreciate it. And also I have a TCG player link in the description down below if you want to pick up any of the cards. But we're going to dive right into the card I'm most excited about, and that is Yoda. Yoda is a brand new leader. He's in Vigilance Heroism, and you might immediately think that this is going to be like the new coming of Heroism Control. And I'll talk about what I think is strong about Heroism Control and what I don't think is potentially viable. But regardless, Yoda is one of the most powerful leaders I think we've seen so far in terms of just pure value, like just value coming down and value throughout the game. His frontside action: if a unit left play this phase, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on the bottom or top of your deck. So you get to choose. So the idea here is maybe you play some early units, you trade off, and you get to filter your hand. So we call this effect looting in Magic, but basically the ability to kind of dig to certain cards, dig to certain answers, smooth out your curve is always extremely powerful. I've talked about how drawing cards in Star Wars Unlimited isn't really insane because you draw so many a turn. However, drawing more cards does give you more selection, and it's still a good thing. It's just not necessarily as powerful as it is in some other card games, but it is still a really solid thing if you could, especially if you could do it for free. Right? This rewards you kind of for playing the normal game, removing units. Maybe you are a little bit more soft control like Rey. You got Fell the Dragon's takedowns in your deck and the new Hello there in your deck. And you're kind of removing a few things, playing a couple of units of your own, and you're trading off, doing all that stuff. Well, suddenly you get to sculpt your hand as you go through the game, right? So pretty decent, but not necessarily absurd, right? This wouldn't make you kind of be like, oh my gosh, this leader is broken, right? Here's where we're going to talk about the flip side. And this is what makes me really excited about it. And partially what I think about when I think about Yoda is not actually control style, but more mid-rangey. 7 to flip, ground unit. So pretty expensive. It's got to be good, right? 4/9 stat line. Pretty kind of decent stat line overall. A little bit less power than we'd expect on a 7 to flip leader, but a little bit more toughness than we'd expect. So overall, solid. Force Jedi Republic tags, all relevant tags in set 3. And, well, will it matter because it's 7 to flip? Maybe, maybe not, but at least it has those tags. So if you do happen to have a card at a certain point, maybe it will be relevant. It's got Restore 2, which means it can come down and help you heal a little bit. We've seen how powerful Restore can be in general, but with like Rey Leader, that's one of the most powerful things about her. So Restore 2, very solid. But all of that isn't even the thing that I'm excited about. It's this when deployed trigger. So when deployed, you may discard a card from your deck. If you do, defeat an enemy non-leader unit that costs the same as or less than the discarded card. So first thing you might think is, wait, discard a card from your deck? That's just the top of your deck, right? Yes, but if you remember, Yoda's action allows you to put a card from your hand onto the top of your deck. And if you're using this throughout the game, you will be able to set up a position where any card you put on the top of the deck will be able to, or the card you put on the top of the deck will be able to kill anything on your opponent's side of the battlefield, ideally, if you've structured your deck correctly, right? Let's say you're playing Redemption in your Vigilance Heroism deck. Boom, suddenly that thing kills basically everything that your opponent has to offer when this guy comes down, right? Boom, really solid. And remember, you can do this before Yoda flips. So you can, let's say, play, I don't know, Vigilance, and you kill something, you heal a little bit, you put a card on the top of your deck, draw a card, put a card on the top of your deck, you flip Yoda, you kill another thing. That is ridiculously strong. Of course, you could just deploy Yoda if you want to risk it, maybe hit like a 2 to 3 resource play. That sounds pretty likely, as you're very likely to have at least a 3 resource play on the top of your deck if you're building a deck that I'm kind of thinking of. But this is ridiculously powerful. When I see a 7 flip leader, I'm really hoping for an extremely powerful effect immediately. Like immediately when it comes down. Not something that I have to attack over the course of a couple of turns. Not something that I have to kind of do a bunch of different things beforehand, and you do have to do a little bit of things with Yoda beforehand to set him up on that specific turn. But also, part of those things are removing units, so that's something that you kind of naturally want to do. So that's not too big of a deal. Mainly, it's like do something like Palpatine has to do, where you're like play a unit, defeat the unit, get a damage, then flip Palpatine and steal it. Granted, Palpatine is amazing, and it's one of the reasons why Palpatine's so strong is because you can make it come down and basically remove one of your opponent's units, but also build your own board. Now, Yoda can't build your own board alongside it, but it arguably has a better couple of abilities alongside its stat line with Restore 2 and the when deployed trigger, because it comes down earlier, can defeat something, and really help you turn the tables. Mid-range decks, I think, are a little bit more exciting with Yoda, and the big reason for that is we don't have a finisher with Heroism Control. And this is something that I'm hoping to see with set 3. But if you look at set 2, one of the reasons why Villainy Control is so powerful is not just because of things like Power of the Dark Side and Super Laser Blast, which I'll mention that in just a moment, but it's also because of things like Avenger, for example, that come down and control the board completely. So if you wanted to play like Double Vigilance Yoda, I think you're going to struggle to have that like massive finisher. It doesn't mean you can't win. You can still win with Obi-Wans and Luminaras and Luke Skywalkers, right? Luke Skywalker is amazing in control decks. But I think it might be a little bit trickier, which is why I mentioned I think it's going to be better in more of a mid-range strategy. I think Yoda Green is something that you might want to consider. Something similar to maybe the Rey Green pile or even Rey Red with Yoda Red, but basically kind of curving out, controlling the board a little bit. And then by the time Yoda comes down, you completely wipe your opponent's battlefield. And heck, you could even do something like kill a unit with a unit you have on board, play Luke, kill another unit, draw a card, put a card on top of the deck, and then kill another unit with Yoda. That's the type of absurdity that we could see with Yoda. So I am extremely excited about this card. I think this card actually is extremely powerful, and I'm excited to build around it. Again, there could be a red version where we have a lot of Force units. We could still play the Force Throw synergy pile with Pillage, Fell the Dragon, takedowns, and all that. We could also play like a Double Vigilance style, where we are a little bit more controlling, or we could be playing like Yoda with Energy Conversion Lab, and we could be playing a bunch of powerful Vigilance cards with Heroism, while also having the powerful, green cards and ramp, things like Resupply, things like Spark of Hope, if that's relevant. Or not even play ECL, just play green, get a little bit more value going, and be able to ramp into Yoda and have things like Home 1 to kind of close out the game as well. U-Wing reinforcements on that same note. There's a lot of different things you can do with Yoda right now. I think there's a couple different ways you could build it as well. So I am extremely excited for this. I think this is the most powerful universal leader that we've seen so far. All of the other leaders are more like, exploit deck. Whatever Event Republic draw cards deck, or we basically niched down. And we see that, of course, with set 1 and set 2 as well. This is a leader that's just universally strong, doesn't have any limitations in terms of, I need to play Republic units, I need to play Force units, I need to play whatever. It just, okay, if I play this deck, I can go ahead and have a removal event, essentially, on my leader when he flips. That's extremely powerful. So I have a very high hope for Yoda. I'm extremely powerful, excited to build a powerful Yoda deck. You could go with like the Double Vigilance Mill style with like Satine as well, which we kind of mentioned in the previous video, which I'm really excited about too. Just so many different things you can do with Yoda. So my goodness, guys, let me know what you think about Yoda and whether or not you think he's the most powerful leader from set 3 so far. But we're going to move on to some other cards before I just continue talking about Yoda for the entire video. And that is Unlimited Power as the next one. What sweet art, by the way. I can actually hear this card. I don't know if anyone else has that kind of feeling when you look at this card, but I can hear it. If that makes sense. 6 cost event in double aggression. Deal 4 damage to a unit, 3 damage to a second unit, 2 damage to a third unit, and 1 damage to a fourth unit. And all damage is dealt simultaneously. That is important because there is no like triggers overlapping in between or whatever, or there's no weird things happening. It just all happens and it resolves, and then the board states kind of checked if something happens when something dies or whatever. But Unlimited Power here, the thing that I'm a little bit kind of sad about is that you can't hit the base. if I'm thinking about this and I'm like, okay, unlimited power, double aggression, like you could deal 4 damage to a base or unit, and then 3 damage to a unit, 2 damage to a unit, and 1 damage to, like, one of these triggers able to hit a base would be really, really cool, because double aggression's all about that aggressive nature and hitting your opponent's base. I'm not really seeing a deck where this would be immediately slotted in. It could be potentially a sideboard option, especially if your opponent's going the token strategy where, like, you go ahead and kill a more valuable unit, then 3 damage to a clone trooper, 2 damage to a clone trooper, 1 damage to something else that maybe has some damage on it, or maybe a battle droid token or whatever. There are just a lot of different options with that. So to me, this looks more of like a sideboard card. But again, we haven't seen double aggression kind of go in this direction where it has very strong removal later on in the game. Because most of the time when you want to be doing on 6 resources is either deploying more to the board and kind of overwhelming your opponent, or reaching their base with things like For a Cause, things like Daring Raid, Chaos of War, etc. I think it's strong. I just don't know where it fits right now in the meta. Next up, we have Duchess's Champion, and this is another card for those of you that watched my video yesterday. 4-cost, ground unit, double vigilance, 1/8 Mandalorian, and if your opponent controls 3 or more units, it gains Sentinel. So I think it's going to have Sentinel a decent amount of time if the token decks are relevant. If not, it's probably just going to be a 1/8. But the reason why this is important is because Satine mills based on the unit's toughness. So Duchess's Champion comes down, you put Satine down, and suddenly you can mill 4 from your opponent. That's pretty interesting. So kind of reinforcing the big butts strategy that this deck has. The thing about this card is a 1/8 really doesn't do a whole lot. Like, it has very little power. It's going to be able to maybe do a couple points of damage, but it'll probably just die to 2 to 3 attacks, and then you just kind of stalled out, and you probably didn't even get that much milling done. Even if that's the case, then maybe it's good enough for stalling out if you are playing that mill deck, but that's no guarantee that it's going to have Sentinel as well. Like, you're going to have to play this, and your opponent's going to have like multiple small units versus, or curving out versus like a Poe-Dameron, right? Because Poe-Dameron comes in and just kind of one-shots this. So these are things that we have to really, really consider when we're looking at these types of cards. I think the toughness is too low, or power is too low. Either you go all the way and just have it like 12, 13 toughness, and make it like a wall, like a brick wall. Then maybe we have something. But the 1 power I think is so low, and the toughness isn't quite high enough to make it like really interesting to me. I will probably be trying it because it's a really big butt. It's got 8 toughness. Like, that is a huge amount, and maybe that's good enough. But I guess we'll have to see. But that's going to be it, guys. There wasn't too many cards over the past day. I just had to talk about it because I think Yoda is absolutely absurd, and I'm extremely, extremely excited to build around Yoda. I cannot wait till the cards are on some sort of platform that I can actually dive in and start playing them. But let me know what you think about Yoda. Let me know what you think about Duchess's Champion. Let me know what you think about Unlimited Power. Again, I can hear this card. I can hear it. Let me know if anyone else feels the same way. Thanks for watching, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you all for the next one.